Okay, let me get my coffee first. Now that's good. Anyway, let me start off my broadcast. God is good all the time. Once again, I repeat that. God is good all the time. Anyway, today I said I was going to unveil my tax reform plan, which ends socialism that the Democrats created all throughout the Commonwealth of Virginia. For far too long, we have allowed the swamp to write tax policy in Richmond to control all the money flowing. So pork barrel projects that doesn't help the Commonwealth of Virginia, but puts the Commonwealth more in debt. We are going to eliminate that. My pledge has always been there throughout my platform and through my journey on this campaign that Virginia will have smaller and more efficient government. It is time to give the localities back their money. It is time to give localities back their interest rates, which allows the localities to put priority in the projects and into their locality that they see are fit and needed. Local governments are the boots on the ground. They know exactly where they need to put funding to. They know exactly what emergencies and hazards or whatever have you that is needed. They know exactly where the funding is needed. And it also means that the proper oversight from local citizens can be done exactly on exactly Virginia's main bottom line. See, what has happened is we allow politicians too much leeway. And all we have done is give out our money without seeing exactly what is being spent on. We are going to change all of that, Virginia. We will. Now, I would like to give credit out to Mr. Smith in Gloucester, who called me the other day and said, Merle Rutledge, I need for you to pull all the strings. I need for you to let the Virginia people know that we have checked it out. We have done the research. We have done the background. Have you done the background research? I said, hell yeah. And he says, time for you to let the Virginia people know exactly where you stand on tax reform. So this is where I stand, people. And this will end socialism in Virginia as we know it and put the money back in the localities as it is deemed improper and should have been done a long time ago. But when you have politicians controlling the bank, then that's, of course, brings the problem. And then the localities have to beg the state government for projects or for funding that they always had, but was always taken away. We get tired of seeing localities beg for money from the state in which they don't need to. That's the point. And this will lower taxes throughout Virginia. And we can actually start seeing localities grow and build the way that they need to without always having to ask Richmond for permission. I'm tired of it. The localities is tired of it. We see them all complaining, talking about, well, we got to go to Richmond and see if we can get this done, even though it's necessary. The roads, the bridges, those who need an increase in their salary because they're not surviving at this time period, especially our first responders and our teachers all across this Commonwealth. So we are going to do the right thing. Richmond, the Commonwealth of Virginia, the state government will no longer get direct payments from corporations outside the state that does business in a particular locality. This is just like having Wendy's, a corporation out of state, or BP, corporation out of state, but in particular localities, they do business. but that corporation or that Wendy's sends their money directly to Richmond instead of to places like Gloucester, like Danville, or Pennsylvania County, or wherever have you. What happens during this time, people? Yes, the interest rates supply Richmond, but the localities where these corporations have put a base or a business in them doesn't see the money. So what happens is they're sending the direct payments to Richmond, but the locality is not getting money on the interest that they deserve. They are the ones who worked hard to get that business there, get those jobs there. Shouldn't they have the tax revenue that comes from that business? And then after a certain amount of time, send the state their part? This, on the other hand, will give out millions on millions and millions of dollars extra revenue so these localities can fill in the holes themselves where they find deficits in, instead of trying to borrow from the state and put the burden on the state if the deal goes wrong, then paying pennies on the dollar back to the state, which is causing debt in that locality and it's causing debt within the state. This is what happens when you have too big of government. Now, for those who are understanding this and not understanding this, get yourself a tax expert, because I have my tax experts, and they're going to tell you exactly what he's telling you is when you put money in the bank, you're supposed to get interest on that money. The more money you put in, the more interest you get. So if you are putting in $2 million a year, a lot of people live their life off the interest of their money, not touching their actual money. This is what we are doing for the localities throughout Virginia. We are having you keep more interest on your money, because most of the time frame when the localities is asking the state for more funding is for a couple of million. So what ends up happening is basically instead of the locality asking the state for funding or for grants, the locality already has the money. So when the state has to look at this locality and look at, of course, what extra money is needed, the state is not footing the whole bill, but instead the locality has already made enough money, new tax revenue from my plan to go ahead and cover it, which means we can start balancing the budgets in Richmond and also balancing the budgets in localities without basically borrowing from other areas. That makes sure that localities become more independent and government in Richmond becomes more smaller and efficient. What we will also do for localities and for, of course, state government, we will not have exemptions which hide where we are spending the money and where the money is going to. We will not have exemptions on the contracts that governments are signing or whatever have you. So when people go to their city council or their county board of supervisors meeting, they are aware of the contracts, they are aware of how the money is being spent, and they can go ahead and give comment that directly deals with the core issues of any agreements that affects their bottom line. Meaning where the taxpayers may have to foot the bill for deals in which the government or their locality would have never entered into had they had a chance to do their own independent research. Government works better when it is represented by the people, but the people are aware of exactly the deals that go on. We must change our whole way of doing business, because the way business is being done right now, we are losing each and every time a locality in a liberal area or whatever have you. Most of the time, people, I'm sorry to say the cities, We have to pay that money back from the state, in which we don't have to if the localities had their own money, their own interest rates, and then from there, sending the money that is due to the state back to the state after 30 days. Imagine the interest on that money. And the only difference is the state getting less debt, less control, and allowing the localities to operate the way it should be. And the state can focus on priority, on fixing the problems that have plagued Virginia citizens all throughout. Because once we can do that, we can start using the state resources to become not only smaller and more efficient, but actually more targeted in the areas that has the most need. This is how Virginia should run from now on. This stops the socialism. This allows for those living in these areas the opportunity and the pursuit of happiness in more ways than one. And also allows for those who work hard and try to live by decent ways to know that there is actual relief coming in the way of increases that meet, of course, the standards of living. That's how we make Virginia work. This is how we end the socialism. And this is how we make government smaller and more efficient so these localities can handle business and the people can come more aware and informed of the issues that's going on instead of getting whatever the government feeds out there to get the people on board. Because, see, when I said exactly, when the people and the government work together in their localities, you see those localities bloom. You see them grow. You see them prosper. And at those time periods, we see the mistakes that could have been avoided are actually resolved. Because this way, the people and the locality feels a duty to make sure that money is spent wisely, but also at the same time frame, they are getting the proper return on their investment. And that's exactly making sure their lives and their neighbors become better, as well as their locality becomes a place of growth, but responsible growth. So this is Merle Rutledge unveiling his tax plan that the rest of the swamp would hate for me to do. But they also know this is exactly what is called for when it comes down to a governor like Merle Rutledge getting elected, putting Virginia first and making sure we put everything else to the side that Virginia shouldn't be paying for in the first place. Like I said, I will become the most transparent governor of Virginia. Our deals will no longer be in the dark, but be in the light. And this way, Virginia and its citizens can now know that our state government is responding and acting appropriate. And this helps drain the swamp because it's less money for these politicians to try to go ahead and put their hands into as far as that cookie jar. But this works better for everybody. This has been known. That's why we need term limits on these other career politicians. This has been known. This is something that should have been done. But luckily for good citizens and those who care about Virginia, country over party, that they had the courage to come forward to let not only Rutledge know, but to allow Rutledge to go ahead and send the message loud and clear. We are getting Virginia back, but we are getting Virginia back stronger than ever, leaner, and a lot more smoother in public policy, which allows for Virginia to continue to work for everybody. This is Merle Rutledge, the 2021 candidate for governor of Virginia. And this is my tax reform policy, which saves Virginia taxpayers money, reduces taxes, allows for smaller and more efficient government that focuses on priority, and it allows for the people to know exactly how the money is being spent. This is what government and this is what the people should expect from it. And I will not expect anything less. Signing off, Merle Rutledge for Virginia Governor, the person who speaks the truth with answers. And you have a wonderful day, and you share this post and tell the Tea Party and the fellow conservatives business is no longer as usual.